Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
There's been a lot of looking back this season. The incredible highs of Forest's campaign last term that saw the Reds break records and do things we never imagined was the comfort blanket we all reached for as results went from the dire to the dangerous depths of the bottom three this time around. The high of grabbing that 1-0 win away at Anfield a year ago was the catalyst for so much good that followed and has been etched into Forest folklore. The turnaround under Dyche and his merry men has been flourishing for sure. The Leeds win gave us hope that we were on the up, but to follow that up with this season's trip to Anfield, well, even with the reigning champions in lukewarm form, it still felt a big ask to travel to Liverpool and get anything at all. To go there and not only win for the second consecutive year in a row, but to actually put Liverpool to the sword and come away 3-0 winners is something that will go down in history and must now surely again be the ultimate turning point for Forest this season. Sit back for our review of the thriller on Merseyside. I'm your host, Greg Oram, along with my podcast partner, Richard Spray. And with us on the panel, we're delighted to be joined by the Texas Ranger, Bruce Johnstone, and the Wollaton Wanderer, Steve Battlemuch. A stunning, resolute and battling defensive display with moments of match-winning quality. See the Reds climb out of the drop zone and belief in that kind of form that they can now truly be unstoppable.
I'll smile, I know what it takes to fool this town. I'll do it till the sun goes down.
Elliot Anderson, and it's come back post for Murillo!
Yes.
To fire home!
There you go.
Put Forest in front at Anfield for a second year in a row. Jennifer Williams, who's away from McAllister, and lays it back.
Yes!
Nicolo Savona!
Savona again!
Right foot into the top corner. His second goal for Forest. Hutchinson having a run at them into the penalty area. Chance to shoot. Allison saves. Comes
Yes!
right. It's 3-0.
Yes!
It's one score. Forest are 3-0 ahead at Anfield.
3-0 Forest. 3. It's fucking 3 now. It's 3. It's 3. It's 3-0. 3. No, 3. 3. 3-0. 3-0. Alison's giving it all this, gesticulating and all, but it's 3-0. 3-0, Arna. 3 fucking nil, Arna. 3-0. At home. 3-0. Half a billion. And they're out there playing worse than Sunday League. Fuck right off.
Only alone I will cry out now.
Forest, isn't it? That bad, you know. Never got a chance to play in the kit. I'm certainly wearing it now.
Not quite sure what I'm enjoying more, the win or the meltdown from the Liverpool fans I've been observing over social media. Well, a 3-0 drubbing of Liverpool. Perhaps only me that thought we could go away and get something like that. I'm ever the optimist, according to some, but I think we are all still on cloud 9. Richard, a big smile on your face there, mate. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'll be on cloud 9 for a while. I'm going to live off of that one for years to come, probably. But yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, it's been a great sports weekend. Now I just need to, for those who follow NFL, I just need the Detroit Lions to win this, and that will cap off the weekend beautifully with a Forest win. And my college American football team won yesterday. It was great. But yeah, my son and I were just grinning throughout the remainder of the day, just absolutely living off of that glorious victory. So enjoying every second of it as we both got to take it in yesterday. It was brilliant. So, and like Dyche said, it was just even more exciting for the boys because, they played, they gave their entire selves to winning that match, which was great. And so it was great to see them be honored for that and getting that victory. So.
And you must be the only person in the world that was actually at an American football game live in the stands watching college football and actually watching Forest play Liverpool on your phone with your son.
That could have been the case, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Don't forget to get involved in the comments. Let us know that you are here. Let us know what you thought of yesterday. We'll read out some when we can and if we can. Just a quick early shout or two to Ian Wigginton, who's with us. How you doing, buddy? The Garibaldi nerd says, good evening, gents. What a weekend. Been reveling in Liverpool fan YouTube and reactions from yesterday and everyone feeling really happy about that. Great to see you too, Jackie. Thanks for being with us. And Ian goes on to say he still thinks Jesus was robbed over the handball goal. We're going to get into that, of course, as we go on. What I will say as well, if you're tuning into this episode later on Apple and Spotify, welcome to you. Thank you very much. And any other podcast you're listening on as well. So now we are stretched out a bit further. And also just to kind of draw your attention, we are going to be giving away a Nottingham Forest shirt. So later on in this episode, I'm going to give you information on how you can win that shirt, basically. You can get yourselves a nice new Homer shirt, away shirt, maybe one of the third shirts ready for Christmas for either yourself or as a gift. We are going to be giving one away courtesy of our sponsor, The Cheese Trader. And later on, you'll get all the information on how you can enter that competition. All right. We'll say our hellos as we go around, but Richard, I'll come back to you first. I know you kind of gave us a little bit of a taster, but just your general thoughts on the match and how it unfolded, buddy.
You know, one of my favorite phrases in life is whole soul devotion, right? Like that's one of the things that just sounds so beautiful when you say it. That was whole soul defending what we watched yesterday. That was like every blade of grass was being watched and monitored, and everybody was, rowing at the same rate and trying to find a way to keep Liverpool at bay. I mean, there was a couple of nervy moments, as we know. That initial, I think it was 8 minutes in, and McAllister had that shot that Elliot Anderson headed off the line, which was fantastic. But what a comprehensively great team performance. I mean, there's definite performances by individuals in there that you can speak to that are just absolutely fantastic. But I just think it's the comprehensive nature of that, the way that they played as a team, and that same sort of cohesion and like commitment to each other and to the cause, as it were, when it comes to how they're playing structurally and everything else. It was all evidenced, and you need that kind of way of playing in order to beat a Liverpool. Clearly there's talent on our squad. You saw that with Hutchinson when he came in, and the little element of trickery that he offers. I'm sure we'll talk about that in more detail, but it was great to see them look like a team that has genuinely been putting in the time, energy, and commitment to fitness levels, to finding the right way of playing cohesively, trying to find the right way to support one another, and playing off the ball with such intensity and work rate. That it's just a great thing to witness, and hopefully that launches us, as we said kind of in the preview last year when we beat Liverpool at Anfield. It was such a momentous occasion for obviously the number of decades that it took to do that, but also what that was a springboard to just playing better football generally, and what that meant for us as we moved further into the season. And that initial half of the season, how much that staged us to be able to get to a position where we could play in Europe as well later on, just because of some of the dip in form we saw the latter stages of last season. So hopefully that's what this is. It's a catalyst to better things to come.
Big Arms with us in the comments. The Life and Souls here. He says, "Think I must still be asleep and dreaming." And hello there to it must be D22nd. Evening, gentlemen. What a great weekend. Loving the background from myself. Yeah, I've got a few of these. I've been busy on the AI to try and generate something different. So we might have a few more to show you along the way. Brucey over in Texas, you were getting quite giddy in the WhatsApp group as the game unfolded. What did you make of it?
I couldn't believe what I was watching, if I'm being honest. I mean, I came in pretty pessimistic, as I'm sure most Forest fans were. I was just, if we can get a draw, I would be so happy. That's what I was telling myself. And the first 20 minutes were nervy, but credit to the boys. I mean, we saw it yesterday was something we haven't seen in quite a while, especially under Ange and the latter part of Nuno. Was we saw heart, we saw fight. We saw guys throwing their body in front of balls, putting their body in on the line, and Murillo, all of his body on the line. It was just beautiful to watch. It was awesome to watch. I mean, it's almost like, rekindling that love. It was good. It was good to watch. And yes, I was giddy throughout the game. Again, it was more disbelief than anything. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. It was awesome. It was phenomenal. Phenomenal. There's that word. We love that word. Mark Wayway NFFC, another £2 for the pot. Thank you very much, sir. Another golden moment in our great club's history. Indeed, Richard says, great intro. Liverpool fan meltdown is only rivaled by Goldbridge. Was expecting Zombie. Great win yesterday. I think I did Zombie last year, so I didn't want to kind of repeat that. Try and come up with something different. One man who I think is still
certainly on cloud 109 after travelling to Merseyside and watching the match in the stadium is our good friend Steve Battlemuch. Come on in, Steve. I want to hear all about it. What did you make of the game and how was the day? Tell us everything.
Well, I think like virtually everybody else watching the game in some form or certainly going up there, we went with trepidation. We thought, you know, they haven't had a great start, Liverpool, but they're still stacked full of players that would walk into any team. And we are still learning our ropes under Dyche and, you know, got the win against Leeds, but, you know, it's still early days. And I think many of us were thinking it was a bit of a free hit. If we came away with a draw or even just a good performance and not got walloped, you know, that would take us into the next few games. And, you know, I'm sometimes a bit of a pessimist. I kind of, you know, think, well, I want us to win, whatever. But on the prediction league, which, I mean, you get a chance every week to change your prediction. And I had us from the start of the season that we would lose this game. And I kept it. I kept it as a loss, thinking, well, you know, if I don't get this right, loads of other people won't get it right either. But we went up there, and I tell you what, the absolute the fans were in great voice right from pre-match, in the pubs, in the terraces around getting drinks before we went into the seating area, which is obviously all standing anyway, on safe standing at the Liverpool end, and you know. It was backs against the wall at the beginning. You know, I didn't even see the Anderson. I saw it was a melee because it was completely at the other end, and it was only later that somebody said Anderson cleared it off the line, but it just looked like a block from down our end. And for that first period, we kind of thought, oh God, it may be only a matter of time before they get one. But what seemed different was the defence were absolutely throwing themselves in front of everything. You know, blocks, tackles, and their heads seemed to go down a bit because what was happening was, you know, Murillo was stepping out in front of Isaac, picking up the ball. Milenkovic was pushing people off the ball. Williams was beating Salah, and suddenly their cockiness was just not really there. And then, you know, from our first goal, it really probably didn't really feel like they were going to get back in it. And you know, I'm sure we'll come on to this. The disallowed goal that clearly should have stood. I've looked back at it today a number of times. You know, that was a referee's call to not give it as a goal. It wouldn't have been overturned by VAR if he'd have given it as a goal. I'm absolutely sure of that. But because he'd done it that way. But the crucial turning point in the game was the second goal. You know, you get that goal within a minute of the second half, and just we knew it in our end. They've now got to get 3 to beat us. And we just never thought that was going to happen, given the way that they were playing. And then to go on and get the third, see the mass exodus in the 2 side stands, not the Kop, to be fair, but the 2 side stands, people were emptying out in big numbers on 80 minutes. And, you know, we win 3-0 there, and we don't bring Marato on, do we? At 60 minutes, we brought Hutchinson on. Now, what's this about Dyche being a defensive manager? That was, you know, that sent a signal. Really, and Hutchinson well deserved for the assist for the third. Again, we'll come on to that, I'm sure, but brilliant atmosphere in the ground, brilliant atmosphere as we were leaving the ground, and delighted that I was there last year and this year, and now probably my best ever away day yesterday. I've been to a few where I've said best away day, but it's gonna take a lot of topping to beat them 3-0 at their own patch.
Fantastic. I just thought it looked like we were well and truly back to what we had become last season, something that we were all desperate for. The whole experiment with the last manager that came and went, that just was such an unsettling period. And the hopes of Dyche coming in with Stone and Wone, and that connectivity with the fans and the club and the city that we've all spoken about, we just have been hoping, and I have hoping and praying that it wasn't just romanticism and fantasy and hope based on nothing. I really hoped and wanted more than anything there to be some substance in this appointment. And I know that Dyche certainly wasn't a lot of people's first choice, and has taken time to win people over, perhaps, because it's always got to be more that the man coming in has something up his sleeve as a coach in terms of laying down good principles, in terms of being very thoughtful, intelligent on how to approach matches. It can't just be, oh, well, he lives in the city and he played for us as an apprentice and we've got 2 ex-players with him. Everything is going to be fine. It's not as straightforward as that. And so when these 2 weeks came on the international break, and I know that we still had some players away, I just felt that this could be the real turning point moment where there's a vast majority of the first team back at the club. And we know that Dyche has talked about fitness levels not being what he wants for his work that he wants to put in. He's made that very clear a number of times. He's been very, very careful to be very sure that he's speaking in the right way, which I really, really respect. He wants them to be fit enough for what he wants them to do. And the messaging has been very clear. And what I love about Dyche is he talks very well in press conferences and post-matches. He gives us a lot of information that we kind of almost get a little bit of an insight into his thinking as well and how he's kind of approaching stuff. Not everything, because certainly you were right about the Hutchinson introduction, and we'll talk about it later, because I was surprised that happened. But, to go to Liverpool, Sean Dyche has had a lot of flack over the years for being a certain type of manager. But to follow up a 1-0 victory against them last season with a 3-0 yesterday, and we'll get into the kind of bones of it a bit more now, it's just truly remarkable and has to be a catalyst now for Forest this season. It has to be that we can't just look at this result and say, well, that's it, everything's fixed, we're going to be fine. The hard work has only just started, and I really hope that, and I'm absolutely certain there'll be no complacency. Dyche was joking afterwards about the players saying, "Oh, that's another day off for us then, Gaffer," and he was like, "Not a chance. You're in tomorrow." He's working them hard because he knows what's expected, and so I'm absolutely thrilled with the win, but I'm thrilled with just the whole feeling around the club. There wasn't much noise coming out over the 2-week period, which I said in the previous show I was happy about. And it just feels they've quietly gone about getting on with their work and building a team spirit and an identity that's back to what we knew last season, back to loving defending Richard Spray. So we go to Liverpool. You're going to face a barrage. That's no surprise. You go to Liverpool, you're going to face a barrage. Dyche said they're going to come out and they're going to attack you, and they did. And we did ride our luck a little bit, but they didn't carve us open. We rode our luck, as I said, but then Morgan Gibbs-White battles for the ball in midfield, and he wriggles forward and he manages to prod the ball to Igor Jesus, who runs on and forces Konate, who was terrible, by the way, into giving away that first corner. And then, well, we know what happened next. Take it from there, Richard.
Yeah, Anderson continuing to improve on his delivery of the ball into the box. I mean, it was had a perfect pace and trajectory on it. Obviously, I think it was a Liverpool player that headed it down right at Murillo's feet. We'll kind of come onto the controversy of that moment, but ultimately he just absolutely did what Murillo does. He used that left foot to his advantage, and he absolutely slammed it into the left middle of the post in the left corner of the goal, and it was just absolutely beautifully placed, beautifully paced shot, and come to what we come to expect from him with that magic left foot. I think the issue was, of course, that they wanted to look at it simply because they thought maybe Ndoye was in the line of sight for making it difficult for Alisson to track that and be able to react to it. But when you look at it from the angle of in front of the goal, looking towards Alisson, he's literally like positioned right there, and you can see he knows what's going on. The reality of it was, regardless of the fact that Ndoye was sort of about a foot to his right and not directly in front of his line of sight, he wasn't going to save that goal, that shot. It was not going to happen. So invariably, there was, they did what they did. They took the time to actually assess it, but in reality, it just wasn't going to matter because he absolutely placed it perfectly. So, and what a great moment to try to lift the team, because as you said, that those first, so many minutes of the match, it felt like, we were dealing with it. There was a couple of incidences, head off the line, etc., like we talked about, that made it somewhat concerning that we might give a goal up early, but invariably they just withstood it, went helms deep on it and kept them at bay. And then ultimately, they were rewarded for that. Because I mean, that was the glory of yesterday, was the things that we didn't see, the things that we were complaining didn't exist, the defending, the consistency of defending, coupled with taking the chances when the chances came, when we were under Ange and we couldn't seemingly find the back of the net. All of that sort of was unfolded yesterday beautifully.
So what about you, Bruce? Murillo connects the ball sweetly. I mean, were you worried that the goal was going to get ruled out? Because Liverpool had that instant in their last game against Manchester City when, they had a goal ruled out for what they're calling very similar circumstances. I think there's a little bit of a difference in the two plays. But did you think for a second maybe Ndoye was offside and it was going to get ruled out?
Well, anytime VAR is looking at something and you're playing Liverpool, you have to be a little bit worried. They seem to get a lot that sway their side. But no, I mean, to me, it was a pretty easy call. I don't even know what they're looking at. I get the complaint from Virgil van Dijk's from the week before. And to be honest, I thought that should have been allowed too. But, they make these decisions. Don't know why. Move on. Yeah, I didn't really see anything of it. Much exactly what Richard said too. It looked like there was no way he was saving it. Ndoye was not blocking his view directly. It was the shot was in the corner. It just made no sense. But no, I was pretty comfortably celebrating that goal, probably for too long because I missed what happened next.
What about you, Steve? I mean, I said in the preview, based on what Raf had given us in a Liverpool opposition report, where he'd mentioned that Liverpool were a little bit susceptible at set pieces. So I was saying, well, look, hopefully that might be the way that we hurt them. And sure enough, our first corner, and we get the goal, and that sounds, and it seems like it was the complete turning point. I know that it's a cliche, goals change games, but it felt like 30 minutes of Liverpool barrage, Forest not really kind of getting out their own half. And then we make that break, we get that corner, and we score the goal. And that kind of was game-changing in a nutshell, wasn't it?
Yeah, and in many ways, it was just brilliant. It fell to Murillo because he's such a heartbeat of the defence and such a big personality in the team. And you could see the way that everybody was celebrating with him, how much it meant to him, and what a boost it gave to the team at that point. And, you could see Dyche straight away on the touchline, touching his head, saying, "Switch on! Don't do anything stupid now. Keep it."
It's his favourite one, isn't it? With the two fingers on the head.
Yeah, and we were jumping up and down and celebrating and going bonkers. And of course, while all that's going off, VAR's checking, and then you're kind of going, "Oh God, are they going to rule it out?" and all the rest of it. But it certainly did give us the spark, and it's great that it came from a corner. And yeah, it kind of the ball sort of brushed past Van Dijk. He got a bit of a head on it, but he was being challenged by Jesus in that challenge. Now, the Van Dijk of last season would have headed that 30 yards clear, wouldn't he? But he didn't get a proper head on it, probably under the challenge from Jesus. And the ball just dropped to Murillo, and he put it sweetly in the corner. And yes, that gave us such a boost, I think. And 5 minutes later, we thought we were 2-0 up, and we should have been.
I think it was 2 minutes later, really. I mean, I was still celebrating. I was with my dad and my son, and we were kind of like, my heart was pumping, and I was thinking, right, that goal was it again. I'm kind of thinking, have we scored too early? Because last year it was later on in the second half, and we held them. I'm thinking, have we scored too early? Have we woken them up? By the time I'd kind of refocus on the game, I was frozen because Igor Jesus was sticking the ball in the back of the net, Richard Spray. And I didn't even make any sound. I kind of just had both arms in the air like this, frozen, looking at the screen, thinking, what the shit has just happened? We've scored 2 goals in 2 minutes. He's running off. I'm thinking it's a goal. But even then, part of me was thinking, have I just seen him score a goal? Where did that come from? And then it all kind of unraveled into confusion. So look, I don't think any of us for a second think that it was a handball. But can you put any kind of sense as to how that referee has given that as a handball? I mean, he's standing behind Igor Jesus, behind another player, I believe. He's not able to see Igor Jesus receive the ball. How on earth has a referee decided that's handball? Can you tell me? Can you explain it?
The only thing I can think of is that he's getting too influenced by what Allison or somebody else is doing in terms of providing some thought on that, right? Because clearly, when a goal like that occurs, because to your point, we were all dumbfounded, we were all not expecting that to occur. Allison was frozen in that moment, right? Once Jesus brought the ball down and finished it beautifully. What we'd been hoping for from him, right? Which is as much a disappointing element of this, given the result. That he didn't get the chance to have his first Premier League goal when he deserved it. But I think it was just allowing too much to be too influenced by what the players were saying directly to the referee. Because to your point, I don't know if he had I'd have to go back and look at the angle. I think you were saying he might have been somewhat shielded. Is that kind of what you were inferring there? That maybe he couldn't quite see it perfectly. But again, that's what VAR's.
There's no way the referee could see that.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And that's the point of VAR, right? In a nutshell, take this in as a microcosm of what VAR is actually supposed to do, which is to say, okay, if I'm not sure, even if I am allowing myself to be influenced by what a player is saying, in this case, Allison, go to the monitor. Let VAR do its job, go to the monitor, look at it and assess it, because it was clear and obviously not a handball. Because you see him go like this and his arm goes back and he's got the ball and it comes down. I have no idea, right? Even in real time watching it, how in the world that got determined to be clear and obvious agreement with the referee decision. I think they were saying this on Force Focus a little bit about how there's this sort of propensity to want to avoid disagreeing with what the referee's decision is on the field. But again, that's the existence of VAR is meant to correct mistakes, and that was clearly a mistake. And I honestly, I continue to be dumbfounded by it. It didn't influence the result in the end, but ultimately it's frustrating because it continues to be par for the course with how things are managed in that VAR space. But yeah, I have no idea how the referee came to that other than allowing Allison to dictate what he was thinking.
But that shouldn't happen. I was always brought up, the referee can't see it, the referee can't give it. The referee would always say, look, I didn't see it.
100%.
I can't give what I can't see. So therefore, if he's saying, I'm going to give it as a handball, I just can't fathom, Bruce, how that can happen. And surely, Bruce, the VAR is there to intervene when there's a clear and obvious error. And we all see that it doesn't touch. I mean, the arm is out here. It's hitting the chest. At very best, it might brush the top shoulder on the left arm. Where are you on VAR now? Do you think that maybe it's making more problems than we need?
I think it's just backing the ref's decision on the field more than anything. They're not wanting to overturn anything. I don't know why. I don't know if it's, as we call it in Texas, the good old boy system, where we just take care of each other, or what it is. But that was the frustrating thing to me, and I missed it the first go round. When I watched it the second time, yes, Richard, he was very clearly blocked by a Liverpool defender, and he was facing Jesus's back. He couldn't. There's no way he could see that. I would like to think he's not that incompetent, and that one of his assistant referees told him that's a handball, and he called it. Don't know if that's even legal. Don't know the rules of the game that well. But I would like to think that was the case, and he didn't just see the Liverpool's players' reactions. But the worst part of that whole situation is they never sent him to the monitor. They never get he's on the VAR. They're giving him the feedback. They never sent it to the monitor. They weren't going to overturn that. They never would. If the call on the pitch was no handball, same thing. They probably would have kept it. That's the biggest problem with this VAR thing. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. Sorry. Let me stop. But there's no way. And the fact that he called it on the pitch was even more infuriating, because it's not. It wasn't. You're exactly right. It hit his shoulder. It hit his shoulder.
At
it should have
best.
stayed.
I mean, at
Yes.
best, I think it was more chest than anything else.
Right.
I mean, talk about the T-shirt line, Steve. I mean, you were behind that goal. I think that's where the Forest fans were stood. What did you see of it in live action?
Well, I'll be absolutely honest. It happened quick. It hit him. You couldn't totally tell whether it was arm or chest in that split second from behind the goal, because everyone's just following it. Next minute, it's a goal. Everyone's jumping up. You're thinking, we all thought, goal, great, get on with it. And then the person next to me just said, they're checking it. And I said, well, they're not going to overturn it. And then somebody else said, he's not giving it. And that was the crucial thing. He didn't blow to say goal and point back to the centre spot and let VAR check it, which VAR checks every goal. So it's his decision. And like everyone else has just said, he couldn't see it himself. So, I mean, I've watched it God knows how many times now online. I rewatched a bit of the game this afternoon of that bit, and it clearly should have stood. And so, A, the ref made a mistake. B, VAR made a mistake. I'm sure there'll be some sort of statement tomorrow when the referees panel get together and say it. But I tell you what, we went into half time thinking, oh God, we're only 1-0 ahead. And if that comes back to haunt us, thankfully it didn't. But, you know, that goal should have stood. And I think it was the referee. And I read something online today, and you always have to be 100% kind of, is this true? But apparently that ref has not reffed a Liverpool game for over a year. And the reason he stopped reffing, because he had a game where Slot completely slated him for being anti-Liverpool at his last game. And he's not reffed a Liverpool game for over a year. Now, I'd have to check the facts on that, because it was, you know, sometimes people online are a bit illiberal with the truth or whatever. So we'll see if that's true. But it felt aggrieving, absolutely. But thankfully, it didn't hurt us in the end.
Well, I'm just as upset that goal was ruled out with a 3-0 win as I would have been in any other scenario. It still was boiled my piss and annoyed me just as much, because I want Igor Jesus to have his Premier League goal. I wanted us to put them to the sword. I mean, you know, on another day, that comes back to bite us and we lose the game or draw it at best or something like that. So I'm definitely annoyed about it. And I definitely can't understand how, firstly, he can give it from the position that he's in, because he is guessing without a shadow of a doubt. And then the VAR is there to say, look, there is a clear and obvious error, we think. We don't believe it is handball. Just go and look at the screen. You know, that's all we're asking. Just go and look at the chuffing screen. That's all we want.
Two things, Greg, I should have said. One is, how well did Jesus take it? You know, both the challenge and putting the ball in first time. So that should give him confidence, if nothing else. But Paul's just said in the comments, Wone was absolutely incensed and got booked for you know, challenging presumably the fourth official over the decision. And maybe that did fire us up. Maybe that was the halftime team talk. Don't let that decision, you know, affect the game. Go out and win it. And tell you what, that first minute in the second half won us the game, didn't it?
Indeed. We will continue talking about this amazing match after the break that's coming up in just a moment. But before that, let me tell you about our Nottingham Forest shirt giveaway competition. So this is how you can enter, guys. All right. On the recent episode, the one with Mark Turner, we want you to tell us which player from Forest's history did Mark say he would want on the current team. So it's a question for you to answer. All right. It's now on screen as well. On the recent episode, the one with Mark Turner. So you're going to have to go back and watch it if you didn't watch it the first time round. On that recent episode, which player from Forest's history did Mark say he would want on the current team? Little clue, go to the lightning round. It's in that section there. Hopefully you guys will find it. The way to get the answer to us, and the only way to get the answer to us, is to send us an email. We are going a little bit old school, and to say emails are old school now when we got the birth of social media is quite something. Our email address is talkingredspod@gmail.com. So the only way you can enter this is to email us the name of that player that Mark Turner wanted from our history on the current team. And you got to send us that email to talkingredspod@gmail.com. All right. Mark, you are welcome to enter. Yes, you can. Mark Turner's in the comments. Yeah, you can enter that. That's not a problem at all. You're more than welcome. I'll leave that on screen for a moment, and we'll take a short break.
This episode of Talking Reds is brought to you by The Cheese Trader. If you love proper cheese and you love Nottingham Forest, then this is the place for you. From rich, creamy blues to powerful charcoal cheddar, The Cheese Trader has the flavour to match every moment of the season. Whether you're celebrating a big win or drowning your sorrows after a tough loss, use the code TalkingReds for 10% off every order. The Cheese Trader on Grape Lane in York, owned by Forest fan Stu Freestow. Proper cheese, proper passion. Find them online today and join the cheese revolution.
It is, of course, Stu Freestone, the cheese trader, who is putting up the Forest shirt for the competition. So, courtesy of the cheese trader, the competition is now live. We're going to let it run for probably a week or so. We'll mention it again in some more episodes coming up. One more time for those listening. The email address is talkingredspod@gmail.com. And what we want you to answer is, which player from Forest history did Mark Turner say he would want on the current team? And you can find that answer in the episode, the one with Mark Turner. So go and check it out and email is in your answer. Alrighty. So second half arrives, Richard Spray, and there was a team talk of sorts taking place in the Liverpool dressing room as well as the Forest one. It felt like after 45 seconds of the second half, the two team talks had rather contrasting outcomes, because the Forest team talk delivered Nico Williams wriggling himself into some fantastic space down that left flank and beating a player or two to cross it over for young Nicolas Savona to score his second goal in a Forest shirt. And I love the way this guy gate crashes the penalty box like that. Absolutely fantastic. And for this one, I was pumping and screaming. You were still at the game watching Oklahoma University at that point. Were you jumping in the stands, mate?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the game actually hadn't started yet, so I still had some time. So thankfully, I didn't look like a complete idiot as I did on the Jesus goal that got disallowed. But when I was screaming my head off about it, but I was impressed too with just the whole passage of play there, because the ball in from Dominguez as well was really nicely executed, and so it gave Nico the opportunity to kind of turn and to find Savona. And what a finish! My goodness, for a guy who's a right back / center back, to find that kind of angle where the ball, I mean, he has to turn his foot just perfectly in order to slot that away from Allison, because we know what kind of keeper he is. And so it shows, I mean, you know, you don't want to get too ahead of yourself. You don't want to believe that this is, you know, this guy's got, you know, Premier League stardom written all over him, but he's certainly showing different dimensions of his game that we just didn't see were there. I mean, his finish against Manchester United was really well done as well, in a pressure moment to finish in that manner. So this was just as good, if not better, and it was a brilliant. I mean, that's almost an attacking midfielder / striker way of executing that. So I continue to be impressed with him. He continues to kind of, just as we said, Dyche is proving people wrong, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in terms of his substitution with Hutchinson later on, but proving people wrong in terms of what they think about the way that you operate as a player. For example, Savona showing more than just being a guy you could defend. He's a guy who I think can provide you something on the other end of the pitch as well.
Big Arn says, I don't need a shirt, but is there cheese? The good news is, I think Stu Freestone is going to be giving up a cheese hamper as a runner-up prize as well. Big Arn also says, fullback to fullback in the box. Dyche just parks the bus and humps long balls, they say. Indeed, he does have a bit of a reputation that's travelled with him, as we touched on, Bruce. But, I mean, could you believe your eyes when you saw Savona pop up to make it 2-0, 45 seconds into the second half?
No, nor was I expecting it yet again. I was actually just getting back to my seat to watch the game when they scored. So
you missed all the good action, everybody. You got to keep your eyes peeled.
I know, right? I know. But man, let me just take this moment to sing lyrical about Nico Williams, because if not for him, that goal doesn't happen. I mean, he lost control of the ball, gained it back, beat how many players just across the ball. But not only that, just that whole match, he was unbelievable. Salah got him a few times in the first 20 minutes, but absolutely shut him down. And so, listen, I know he's not having a great season, but he's still one of the top wingers in the Premier League. And that man on our screen shut him down for 70 minutes. It was absolutely beautiful. Salah was frustrated. You can tell he was frustrated. Every time he tried anything, Nico would pop the ball out of his feet. I cannot say enough good things about Nico and how he played yesterday. He was overshadowed by a few players, but just so quietly did a job and shut down that side of the field. It was beautiful. And the assist, again, that was just pure determination. He fought to get the ball back. He fought past those players. And if not for him, again, that goal does not happen.
On screen, we put up Nico Williams's data from yesterday. For those that can't see it, ranked first with assists, or joint first, I think. Is ranking second, 11 tackles, ranking first, 6 tackles won, ranking first, 14 duels won, ranking first, 3 interceptions, first ranking again, 4 dribbles, ranking first equal. I mean, he is, I'm going to say it, he is phenomenal. I'm going to use that word again. The way he's been performing has been nothing short of fantastic, Steve. I mean, I've seen him live a few times this season, and his work rate and his work ethic is just fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, unsung in lots of ways, because Anderson gets the plaudits at the moment, Gibbs White when he's on fire, you know, strikers always get plaudits when they score goals. Murillo and Milenkovic because they're towering central defenders, blah, blah, blah. But I tell you what, I can't remember a game where I came away thinking, oh, Nico didn't play well today. Every game that I come away, it's who played well, Nico and Anderson, Nico and Morgan, Nico and somebody else. And he never gives up running. You know, he's got a massive engine on him. He goes away with Wales. He plays 2 full games. You know, he comes back, he plays again. And right back, left back, you know, he'd play anywhere for this team. And obviously it's emotional for him because he came through the Liverpool stuff, didn't he? You know, I think that was a massive moment for him. But that whole move, I think Savona was involved quite early on. I think he did the initial crossfield pass. We had Anderson involved in that. We had Dominguez involved in that. And then Savona just was hanging about sort of outside the box. He just moved into the box at the right time. He could see what Nico was going to do, and he came in unmarked and passed it into the goal in some style. So what a fullback to fullback move. Brilliant.
It was, and I thought the finish, as Richard touched on, was pretty special. I mean, the way he had the composure to place it into the corner, out of the reach of the goalkeeper, could easily have skied that or put it wide or had it go along the floor and be saved, deflected. You know, really, really brilliant finish. But on Nico, I mean, one thing for me that I think stands out is just how much we've all seen him develop. He was amongst that first batch of signings when we first came up. And I think, without thinking too deeply about it, he's the only one that's really kind of like worked out really, really, really well. I mean, I know Taiwo is still floating around, but we've seen a lot of players come and go. And Nico had some time where he was developing and maybe was viewed as very much a second choice fullback, and we weren't quite sure if he was going to break through. But every time it was asked of him to compete for his place and to come into the team, he came in and just performed really, really well. Remember, it wasn't last season, but it was the kind of season before when he broke into the team. I think there was an injury where he came in and he just put in back-to-back man of the match performances towards the end of the campaign when we stayed up in 17th. And so he's just gone from strength to strength. And the fact that he can play left back and right back in equal measure as well, by the way, he can play at left back and right back, and his performance levels just don't drop. You know, I really do worry that he is going to be catching the eye of the likes of Liverpool. As you touched on, Richard, you reminded us all that that's where he came from, and they've got problems at fullback, and I don't think they're going in the right direction with what they're doing at the moment. I just worry that he's going to start attracting attention. But hey, listen, when our players do catch the eye, I suppose it just shows that they're performing well and we're performing well. So look, Nico Williams to Savona, we're 2-0 up. None of us can barely believe it. I was thinking, okay, right, we're 2-0 up. We're at Anfield. They've got to score 3 to beat us, as Steve was touching on earlier. I don't think that's going to happen. If they get a goal back, Richard, then it's going to make it a bit dicey, a bit interesting, because they're going to come again. It's going to reinvigorate them. But there wasn't really anything that was getting carved out. Can you think about? I mean, I'm talking about prior to us scoring the third. they kind of were passing it around the box. I felt they weren't really carving us open. We were defending very resolutely. Were you at any stage of that kind of phase of the play getting worried or concerned?
Not particularly, no. I mean, they just continued to do what they do every match, which is to retain a significant amount of possession, but it doesn't seem to have that. And it's bizarre considering that they have the likes of Alexander Isak and they have Ekitike, who obviously for whatever reason at this stage, I don't know what the evidence is that Slot is using to try to keep Isak involved, other than the fact that he costs a significant amount of money. He certainly has shown in the past he's more than capable. He's one of the best strikers in the world, but they didn't really seem to have that bite. I mean, there was one, I think it was still in the first half when this happened, that one sort of curled left shot that Sells had to save kind of at his near post from Salah. But I'm honestly struggling to think about in the second half where there was a clear and obvious, what you would refer to as a big chance, right? Quote unquote, big chance in that second half. I mean, I think they did basically what they did for most of the game, which is just to find opportunity to continue to tap the ball around, continue to play the ball around, but never really actually find that way through our back line and certainly in our final third. So they certainly had enough touches in the box, but it just never seemed to manifest itself in anything really quote unquote dangerous, which is a good thing obviously for us. And it just showed the resoluteness of our defense. But yeah, nothing's coming to mind, to be honest with you. I'm happy to go back and double check the sofa score and see if there's a big chance in there that I'm omitting just simply because of my joy over the result. But I'm not. It's not coming to mind.
They only had 4 shots on target.
Yeah,
in the game.
Yeah,
we had 7.
That's right. Yeah,
just going to say, over 150 of you watching, please do hit like on the video, please, and join us for more episodes by subscribing. You can follow us on all the social media channels in the world, I think. Instagram and LinkedIn. Not LinkedIn? Where did I get LinkedIn from? We're not
You've
on
done
LinkedIn.
that again, man. You really got LinkedIn on the brain.
Yeah. Instagram, X, and Facebook. And TikTok, we're there as well. Yeah, do all of that. Okay, so I wanted to have mentioned it already, about this so-called defensive Dyche style. And I touched on it in the preview that depending on where we are in the game, I don't really envisage Dyche bringing wingers on. Certainly if we're kind of like at 1-1 or something like that, maybe he'll kind of shut up shop. So I was kind of, if I'm honest with you, half expecting that. And I said in the WhatsApp group, when he brought Hutch on, I was a bit surprised he did that. I thought we're 2-0 up. I just didn't think he was going to bring Hutchinson on. But what do I know? What do I know, Bruce? Because there's that young lad again coming on. And, he's got his tail up after that Leeds performance. And it was Hutch who ghosted in between those Liverpool defenders to get that shot off for Alisson, for Gibbs-White to score. Are you pleased to see Hutch getting some game time and starting to make a Forest career finally?
Yes. Yeah, I am. I will admit, when we signed Hutch, I wasn't a big fan of the signing, but I always love getting proved wrong in those situations. He's proved to be a pretty bright player off the bench. And if this is his role, so be it, and long may it last, because when he comes off the bench like that, he definitely provides a spark. It took him a few minutes to bed in, but once he did, he definitely was that for us, like Linga was last year. He's proven to be that. And while I'm thinking about it, and it just popped up on my screen again, Isaac, where might he? I think he got lost in the mountains in Serbia last night. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But but back on Hutchinson, listen, I love to see it. Like I said, he if not for him, that last goal wouldn't have happened. And I think he had 2 other chances, if I'm not mistaken. I remember one for sure, but I want to say there was a second one after that too, right?
Yeah, he was making an impact, and that's what you want from anyone coming off the bench. And it's how you finish games. And so, Steve, I was touching on a surprise that Hutchinson's coming on at 2-0. I was expecting a Morato to come on, and I know he did bring Yates on a bit later on as well to kind of bring a bit more solidity in. But Hutchinson, a word on him from yourself?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was delighted that he brought him on, because I thought it showed real intent that we weren't going to just shut up shop, because I think with a team like Liverpool, if you just sit back too much, it will just become defence against attack, and at some point they might sneak one, and if they get one, there'll be 10 minutes of added time. So the fact that at 2-0 up, we're still looking to take the game to them. Dominguez, I think at 60 minutes had run his course and done his job, did a great job as he always does, never lets you down. And then Hutchinson, that run that he put in, but let's just remember that was a free kick which Murillo took quickly and pinged out.
Just as they were making a change, Ingamo had coming on and literally got on the pitch, and Murillo finds Hutchinson on the right hand side.
Pinged it across, Hutchinson controls it and then runs at them, gets a shot in, and Morgan finished it off. So, absolutely brilliant way of finishing the game for us. Then we can look at, we'll put Yatesy on and Hudson-Odoi. And at that point, we didn't play with anybody up front. We just played with 4-6 or whatever, but we didn't need to. At 86 minutes, we then just see the game out. But we were still throwing ourselves in front of the ball. Murillo took one right in the nuts at the end. Milenkovic shoved Salah off the ball in the box, and they, normally they'd shout for a penalty for that, but it was just a challenge. I mean, they were out of ideas by that point. Just one more thing on Isaac. Midway through the second half, I think obviously it was at 2-0 at that point. One of their players threaded a ball through, and Isaac turned and run to think he was going to run through on goal from halfway through our half, and Murillo just came out of nowhere and just picked the ball up. Isaac didn't even get to the ball. Murillo just scooped round, picked the ball up, and made a pass, and it just summed up to me how much Murillo was in control of that duel against Isaac.
Yeah, it definitely felt like Murillo and Milenkovic were back to being their very best as a defensive partnership. They were head and shoulders above the opposition's defensive partnership. I mean, Konate got hooked after whatever it was, 55 minutes or so, I think. And he, as I said earlier, was pretty terrible. But I want to have a chat about players in the Forest team that might have stood out for you guys. I want to flag up Igor Jesus, who I thought was fantastic yesterday. The work rate that he put into the team, his hold-up play, the way he was getting in amongst those centre-backs, winning free kicks high up the pitch to, just kind of give us a little bit of relief when we might have needed it. I just thought his running, his positioning was just absolutely fantastic. When you go away at Anfield, sometimes you've got to work really hard without the ball. And he did a lot of that without the ball. And when the ball was in his vicinity, he was challenging for it. He was going up. He was very much involved in the Murillo goal when the ball came over from Anderson and going up to challenge Van Dijk. And if he didn't get a touch on it, it was certainly enough to make sure Van Dijk couldn't clear it and it dropped into Murillo. So I just thought that Igor Jesus, amongst all the players, for me, really stood out as having a really good centre-forwards game without, necessarily dazzling everyone and without being an obvious candidate for man of the match, if you like. I just thought he was excellent. What about you, Richard? Who did you look at yesterday and come away feeling quite pleased with from a Forest point of view?
Yeah, I mean, the usual characters that we talked about, you talked about Jesus. There was actually one play, just real quick, that I was like, wow, I think he got the ball again. I think it was booted up by Sells. He held the ball, and then he played the ball almost on a no-look pass back towards our half with an advancing Nico Williams. And I'm just like, the vision that he has for that link-up play, Jesus, is amazing. So I agree with you on that one. I actually was going to say Savona, surprisingly. I think, he had the one situation, because Gakpo is a tough character to deal with. I mean, he's very quick, very good on the ball. He presents a lot of difficulty. He can move left, move right without any loss of momentum. And he's just so adept at cutting across the front and face of goal, similar to what Callum does, and being able to take shots. And so you've got to defend that whole section of that corner in such a way that he doesn't take advantage of you. And I thought there was one moment where Gakpo played the ball across, which was the moment that I think McAllister shot, and then, Anderson headed it away from the line. Outside of that, I don't remember much that he did. And I think that speaks to, what Savona has done with other players in this league that were on form. Players like Semenyo, for example. And so I think you're seeing a maturation of a player. Again, we don't want to get too excited, and he's sort of playing somewhat out of position in that way, similar to what we saw Abbott do, at Manchester City last year. So it's great to see this guy beginning to sort of develop as a player. And we talked about the dimension of his game in terms of how he finished, but it's just the way he's defending very difficult customers in players like Semenyo and players like Gakpo that impresses me. So long may that continue. That speaks to the opportunity that we have to add that depth. It was a player that kind of came in very late in the process when we were trying to find fullback depth, and I think he's solidified that right side in the absence of Ola Aina, which makes a big difference for us because it allows Nico to thrive on that left hand side like he's done over the past 2 seasons. So I thought he put in a good performance. I think he was like a 7.2 or 7.3 on SofaScore in terms of how he's ranked from a performance level. So good for him.
Yeah, I mean, Deitch called him out as really improving. He mentioned maybe a shakier first half, but certainly a good second half, and he got his goal. What about you, Brucey? Any players stood out for you?
Yeah, this is an easy one. It's Murillo. I mean, we had a lot of great performances yesterday. Let's not kid ourselves. But what Murillo did yesterday was, it was amazing. It really was. Even if he didn't score the goal, I would still pick him as my man of the match. He was a man on a mission, really. It seemed like every time we had a questionable moment, there was Murillo. Every time somebody got past our fullback, there was Murillo. Who was it? The Liverpool player who broke through our line, and here comes Murillo, pops out of nowhere. I think it was Gravenberch. Was it? Pretty sure it was. He broke through the line, beat our I think Sangare, and Murillo popped out of nowhere, kicked the ball away, and that basically killed their entire attack. And of course, as Steve said, put his body on the line multiple times. So he was just unreal yesterday. He was not playing like a human. He was playing like a machine. He was the Holland of defenses yesterday. He was unbelievable. Not only that, but he was basically took Sangare out of the game because he was being that defensive midfielder. He started a few movements up the pitch too, which is always fun to watch with Murillo because he's got that Brazilian flair. But I've always liked Murillo, as many Forest fans have. But yesterday was unbelievable.
I thought he was going to score that free kick in the first half, but he kind of almost passed it in rather than rocketed it into the goal. Steve Battlemuch, it's always different when you're at the game. You see things that you can't see when you're watching it on television. And I talk a lot about Yates and the work he does as the skipper, talking to people all the time. Anyone stand out for you watching from that stand?
Well, I think what stood out for me is just the whole teamwork. It would be very, very difficult to pick somebody out to say they were head and shoulders above the rest, because what I noticed yesterday was there was very few mistakes. Sometimes where you see a player give the ball away a lot or miss a tackle or kick the ball out of play and you think, oh God, what they've done that. I'm really struggling to think of things yesterday where you sort of tutted or wished for a different outcome. So for me, the plaudits yesterday, 12th man in the crowd, the absolute support from the 3,000 fans. Dyche, Wollaton for the masterclass that they delivered. Yes, Murillo was outstanding, but so was Milenkovic. Yes, Nico, but he's always Nico. Sangare didn't make many mistakes, and Sangare does make mistakes, but he didn't make many mistakes yesterday,
if any.
Jesus, yes, he challenged that Van Dijk for that first goal that led the ball going to Murillo. He scored a good second goal that was ruled out. There was one occasion with which probably wasn't seen much, where he chased back in the second half and took a massive swipe at one of their players and missed, thankfully, because if he'd have caught him, it certainly would have been yellow. It could possibly have been red. And he's got that in his little head, and at times he does pick up a few yellow cards. But he was chasing back towards our defence because he didn't want them to break away down the wing. And in the end, the ball went out of play, and so it's our ball. But everybody put a shift in. Absolutely, everybody put a shift in. So Murillo, just for the goal and the clearances, but I'd be hard pushed to say he was head and shoulders above anybody because it was a real team effort.
It was a team effort. And one of the good things about a great win at Anfield or anywhere, in fact, is all the social media stuff that takes place after. And we've got some of them on the screen for you. Paddy Power, who like to have a bit of a banter whenever they can. Nottingham Forest are now just 6 points behind Liverpool, despite being managed by Ange Postecoglou for half the season. An incredible achievement. LBC LFC says, we've been terrorised by a team 19th in the Premier League, managed by Sean fucking Dyche. It's unacceptable. Another Liverpool fan ranting and raving there. And then, of course, there's the Forest tweet, which says that Forest are the first team to stop Liverpool from scoring in the Premier League at Anfield since, Nottingham Forest in 2024. So, we went there last season and got a 1-0 win under Nuno. And I think very few thought that we probably could repeat that or get close to that, perhaps. But by God, we've gone and bettered it with a 3-0 demolition job on Liverpool at Anfield. Okay, that takes us to the end of this episode. If you are with us in the comments, please do hit the like button and subscribe and all the rest of it. Follow it on all your socials. We're not on LinkedIn. Don't go and find us on LinkedIn. We're on all the other ones, but not LinkedIn. Okay. Brucey, anything quickly before we go that we missed?
Yeah, just quickly. We played extremely well when nobody mentioned Elliot Anderson, who was still brilliant yesterday. But isn't that something? But no, just still on a high, and obviously we got Malmo on Thursday. So looking forward to that. And hopefully this dice ball continues because I'm quite liking it. It's been pretty fun to watch despite what we were told beforehand.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brucey. Steve Battlemuch?
Yeah, just a quick comment because somebody put in the comments, is Dice like animated like that all the time on the Twitch line? Yes, he is. He yells and yells and yells. We were saying yesterday that nobody could be able to hear him because of 60,000 in the crowd, although they were very quiet. Very, very quiet. Apart from you'll never walk alone at the start. They were. It was like being in a library at times. But yeah, he is very animated, and he talks to Wone and Stone all the time. So it's a real team effort, and I think we're lucky to have him. To be honest, it's saved our season, hasn't it?
It's working. It's working. Long may it work. Richard Spray, anything to close on, buddy?
It's just nice not to finish the end of the weekend in the cellar and being in 16th.
You look like you're in the cellar. You do look like you're in the cellar.
I do kind of look like I'm in a cellar, right, of a sort of a hippie commune or something. But yeah, it's no. I think you don't want to get too high, too low. You don't want to get too excited, given the what we know the Premier League is and how difficult of a prospect it is to be successful in this league. We've seen it. But I think by having someone who's come in with a little bit of tactical awareness, but he's a man manager, he understands how to connect with personalities and try to lift those personalities to levels that they need to be at for confidence reasons. And that manifests itself to better play on the pitch, clearly. And we're seeing that unfold. And so what we were concerned about, how many people were worried that we were just getting some brand of football that was really just a safeguard against getting relegated, which there may be elements of that. I think what we're seeing is a bit more than that. It doesn't have to be in European places. Like, that would be fantastic. But it could just mean we finish and win the Europa, right? Which I think you said, Greg, you don't think is an impossibility. Chris Aylmer, I got another message from him yesterday, about re-energizing the Forest machine. I think it definitely feels as though that's occurred. How far that takes us remains to be seen. But I do believe that there's a lot more belief in general in the building now, which is excellent.
Thank you very much to all three of you. We go again with Forest at home in the week with the visit of Malmo, and the club have put out on their social media channels that they are going to make an occasion of it. So if you are going to the match, please do get there nice and early so you can be part of the celebration, of course, looking back on that memorable 1979 European Cup victory over Malmo. So we want to make sure that it's an occasion to remember we definitely need to get a win on the board in the Europa now, just to kind of keep us chugging along in that competition. Because you're right, Richard, I do believe that's a competition we can go far in. And this team, this management staff group that have come together now seem like we have like the connectivity and the identity back in the club that we really felt had disappeared under the last Australian manager. So onwards and upwards. There's Stone, there's Wone, and then there's Sean Dyche at the club now, all pulling in the right direction. Come on, you Reds.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on Dark and Red.